Good afternoon and welcome in for the Smite Challenger Circuit. See how I know what time of day it is this time? We
Nice.
are ready here in Europe for a pretty exciting set, really an exciting day of good matches lined up. We get a chance to see at the end of the day how freshly forged are looking. We're going to get to look at Papis and Snake Pit right now. It's Finch and Aggro, as we're still kind of rocking the Challenger Circuit from home for now, but should be all the same great matches that you all are used to. Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule so you all know which matches exactly are coming up today. Like I said, we're going to be looking at Papis and Snake Pit first. We're going to have Just F6 and Freshly Forged, I think, towards the end of the day as well. And there's some good matches lined up in North America.
Yeah, I'm excited to see our opening matchup in particular here today, Finch, because the Papis have looked like the competition to beat alongside Belt Slap. Those two teams have looked head and shoulders above the rest of the region so far to me. Cold Llamas certainly have their name in that conversation, but the Papis just look red hot right now, so that if they can either continue that today against a Snake Pit team that has looked like it has potential, or this could be Snake Pit's coming out party, so to speak, and really show the region and the fans that this is a team that you really have to take seriously, because I think the Papis are a top-tier contender in this region.
I think so too, and in a way it sometimes feels like they have a bit of home field advantage. Maybe not up against a team like Snake Pit, you know, a lot of these players do play at this level a lot, but up against like maybe Freshly Forged or like some of those other teams that are used to playing at the SPL level, when they come down here, this is kind of where the Poppy's been operating for a while, so these are kind of the kings you got to knock off that throne, so we should be getting ready to get into that match. I do want to let you all know though, as we get to the picks and bans, I know you all have been looking forward to the SPL, and when that return is going to be happening, well, we are going to be kicking the SPL off starting on April 4th, so we're actually pretty close to the start of that. It is going to be online through the first 5 weeks at least. Obviously, we're going to be waiting to see what the official recommendations are, like from local government, CDC, and that sort of thing. But we want to try and bring it to you as soon as possible, so we're going to be kicking it off starting April 4th. So go ahead and mark your calendars. Yeah.
Put it in, man. I can't wait. Finally, we're almost there. Yes. It's been too long without SPL gameplay for sure. Though to be fair, these Challenger Circuit games have been a good holdover at the very least. A lot of these have been very competitive and pretty fun to watch, but it's the SPL, bro. I mean, come on. I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah, there's nothing like watching the absolute best of the best. That's what you get with the SPL. But don't worry, we still have a decent match happening right here, a really good one. This is scary, though, letting Camazotz through. Mifflin loves to say that he thinks Camazotz might be the best god in the game right now, and I have a hard time arguing with him. This guy's so safe. He has tons of damage. I don't know what point in the game you can fight him one-on-one. I think this guy's just a great overall pick right now.
I agree. He's flexible as well. That's a big thing, is that you can put him in jungle or in solo really, really effectively. It doesn't pigeonhole your comp too much. The one thing that picking Camazotz early does do means that you have to be getting CC pretty consistently throughout the rest of the draft, because Camazotz, you know, I agree with Mifflin. He's really, really strong, one of the best gods in the game for sure, but very little in the way of crowd control. So that's something that you do have to shore up as the draft goes on, but he's a perfectly acceptable first pick.
Yep, there's a couple of those gods that really don't contribute anything else to your team in team fights except for damage, and Camazotz is on that list, so got to make sure the rest of your squad backs that up. I think Fafnir can certainly paper over some of those holes, plus they add Uller, who I feel like has been a really popular hunter pick, at least when I'm queuing into games right now, and certainly in the SCC. He brings so much pressure in the solo lane. If that is where he's going to go, he might go mid still, but I imagine it'll be long lane. It can feel hard to even step up in the lane and try and box.
It can, and I'm looking at this draft for the Papis, and that's Uller and Fafnir in the top 3 alongside that Camazotz, and those two both have stuns, but they're high execution CC. They're single target CC, and it's very, very missable, especially against mobile characters. Discordia is one of the gods that I like playing against Uller the most, because it's someone that I can feel at least somewhat safe on. Some of the time, it's pretty easy to dodge the axe with that cloud, and Jingwei, obviously one of the most mobile gods in the game. I think that the Papis definitely need a little bit more AoE guaranteed CC instead of these single target selections. And Aphrodite's really just more single target. Again, another stun, but it's only hitting one person.
Hey, but that one person's gonna get messed up though, aren't they? They're gonna be in a bad spot as this new Wa added in. Does provide a little bit of CC, but again, even hers can be a little bit slow to deploy and somewhat conditional at times. In team fights though, you can pretty reliably hit it, but maybe not quite what they were looking for. But this Aphrodite, I gotta imagine it's gonna be going solo at this point now, Aggro. How strong do you think these kind of support mages, these sustained mages are right now?
We haven't seen a whole lot of them. I know that the Papis love running Hell, and that's something that Creed loves to play over there in the solo lane. That's why Hell gets banned away here by Snake Pit pretty early. Papis clearly play around these sustained comps very well, and I kind of like them calling Snake Pit and the rest of the region's bluff that, hey, if you're going to give us an option to have a sustained mage in that solo lane, you got to prove to us that you can actually beat that playstyle. And I don't think any team has really done that quite yet. So I've got no problem with the Papis trying to get in on it again.
Well, this is a heavy investment as we move into the game, into the hand of the god for Snakepit. They've got 3 of them picked up for Terrorem, WorstTurttle, and 1 for Spudio. And they might even catch Dazer out here in the jungle. He does manage, though, to get out of there. Has to take that dash to get back out. I don't know if that's what he would have been looking to start with otherwise, I imagine. But doesn't quite work out from there. Ends up in some early trouble. And there's yet more aggressions. Dazer really wants to come over and try and see if maybe he can find some way to bully in the early game, and they're absolutely not going to let him on the side of the Papis.
No, just too many people here. Dazer, the blink, you're probably not going to need it super early, so it's not a huge deal, but probably don't need to use it in that spot. You see Terrorem start with the Hand of the Gods because of this start that we're seeing a lot of solo laners go for now, which is starting on the blue buff with the Hand of the Gods. You pull it, hog it, and wait to finish it until the jungler gets there. That makes sure the jungler still gets the blue buff XP. That means they're still hitting level 2 off their own back camps, but it makes sure that you don't get in that awkward position where you have to back up and keep the archers aggroed on you so that you can get all 6 minions, so you can hit level 2 off the first wave plus blue. It's a weird execution, small window that you have to really execute. Hand of the Gods makes it so you don't have to do that as consistently, but it still sometimes misses you a minion depending on where the enemy solo laner starts. It's still pretty easy to deny at least 1 creep and end up making sure that solo only stays at level 1 after the first wave.
Yeah, and I wonder if Spudio is picking it up because he knows that Dazer's not going to be there with him on this side of the map, and he is on the Jingwei. And maybe that helps him clear some of these early buffs too. So I like that we're seeing this hog get picked up a lot more in some other spots, not necessarily only in the jungle or only when you're worried about invades, but it kind of opens you up to maybe take some lower pressure picks or to send some players to some spots they don't normally go in the map early on in the game. And I think that item is versatile in that way.
Yeah, Warchi looks like he, I didn't notice if he picked up a Hand of the Gods, but it looks like he started purple and just soloed that. Ullr can do that more easily than Jingwei, because he just has more damage at level 1. Jingwei probably needs a little bit of help to not take too much poke or miss too many minions in the wave, so that's why we saw both supports start in the mid lane, kind of the old start where you'd start 2 in mid, and no one in lane right away in the duo lane. That used to be Hunter and mid standing in mid together, clearing that wave and trying to get pressure to go to red buff. This was more a defensive standing, I think, by both supports because no invades really came of it.
We'll talk about these mid mages. I feel like we definitely don't see a lot of new Wa right now, and we have seen a bit of Discordia, particularly around her passive and how well that could be applied in the early game. How do you kind of see this game shaking down for both of these two, and what's Chekio going to be trying to do with this new Wa?
Nua's a pick that I was definitely very curious about coming into Season 7 because a lot of the itemization changes they seem advantageous to her. She's always been a more defensive mid-mage. I think that her identity as the backline killer with her ultimate is a little bit misguided. I think in a competitive setting, I think of Nuwa as a tank killer because of the way that her minions explode and deal tons of damage with Prot Shred. I always loved picking Nuwa in comps where we were going to CC frontliners. Frontliners were going to be in my face and they weren't super mobile, and I was going to be able to set up a root, minion stun, insta-kill them. And that's not really what what Snakepit has here. I'm thinking I loved this pick against Sylvanas, gods that have no chance to get a Ymir, ones that really struggle against the Clay Soldiers explosion. But with the itemization changes, there is a whole bunch of different routes that you can go with Nuwa now that I think are really appetizing as a mid laner. You can go with where it looks like Chekio is going, Pure Power, and then you have either Obsidian Shard, which will proc on your ult and get that extra 10% on everybody at the same time because it's on ability cast, so you get an extra 10% pen on everyone when you cast that ultimate as long as that passive's up. Or you can go Charon's Coin, and because you're getting a lot of assists with that ultimate, you're going to stack it fairly quickly. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you can also go the full cooldown route with Chronos Pendant being buffed. I think that helps Nuwa as well if you want to go that sort of build. I think there are a lot of builds that make sense for her. I don't know that she leverages the extra farm that mid laners are getting right now as well as other mages do. So It's not like, oh, it should be the Nuwa meta now. But I think the itemization certainly makes her a viable selection, at least in trying to make her work in certain compositions.
Well, we just saw a back for Markus. He completed the Warrior Tabi and is level 5. The same thing for WorstTurttle. He just finished his back in, came in and got some items. It might be time to see these junglers get a big active and start looking for ganks. They got to clear these jungles up a little bit, get this speed. But they're both coming over towards the solo side. And aggro, we have seen actually, I would say, a surprising amount of solo ganks in the SCC and SOC so far. I really wasn't expecting, but we have seen these teams show some focus over there. And with something like an Aphrodite over there in solo, it might not hurt to try and shut her down a bit early.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that, Finch, is because of two in particular changes. Number one, a nerf to Gladiator Shield, which makes it a lot easier to actually kill people, as Angry might be in trouble now.
He is. I did suspect a gank, but not happening here in mid. And WorstTurttle dunks back down, does find the wall, Hammer there too, but Dazer doesn't really have any tools to keep the CC chain going. Markus makes up to the sky and is out of there. So both junglers end up using those critical ultimates right around the time when they usually are looking for first blood, but they can't find anything in the middle lane. It looks like the shell was used for Dracomariano, so at the very least that comes out.
So two changes that make solo more gankable in Season 7. Gladiator Shield nerf means that you aren't sustaining off two people nearly as well as you used to, and the fact that you can't stack health potions and health chalice in order to get double pots ticking at the exact same time. Those two things combined made it very, very difficult, nearly impossible, to gank solo laners because of the amount of sustain they had. Now they lost a lot of that sustain, so it's possible, and I'm enjoying the fact that solo laners aren't unkillable in the early game. I think it makes for more interesting decisions that you can have.
I think so too. As Terrorem, we saw him harassing, trying to steal those harpies a little bit because he was proxying. I mean, now that he recognized up against this Aphrodite, and there's going to be virtually zero pressure over here in this solo lane, he's going to go ahead and start that proxy up and then look for some opportunities to maybe rotate, strip away some of this jungle from Markus. And that is kind of the thing when you pick this, the Aphrodite over there in solo. People are always asking, why maybe we don't see more mages. It's because it can be a bit harder to defend your side of the jungle with someone like an Afro, as opposed to like if that was like a Cullen running around and maybe Amma wouldn't feel so free.
Absolutely. Amma usually thought of as one of the lower pressure warriors. Not as much as he used to be, but certainly not the Osiris's or the Cucullins of the world. But against Afro, it's pretty easy to do things like this. Get your invades off, steal away that blue buff. This is what you want to be doing up against Creed. And you look at this composition across the board for Papis. Anti-heal is going to be a must for Snake Pit. WorstTurtle's mace, that should be a Brawler's beat stick. If I'm angry, I don't even know if I'm finishing this Chronos Pendant right away. I think I might be rushing Divine Ruin just so I can try and kill Markus.
Boy, Horus is good, huh? Able to get out of that sticky situation with no problem at all. As long as an ally is nearby, he can dash right on out of there. But you're right, man. Anti-heal is clearly going to be the name of the game here. And I almost wonder if maybe the Papis kind of leaned a bit too much into it, right? I mean, they're going to be relying on it a lot to try and stay stood up between Markus and Creed, even a little bit there with Dracomariano, and if Warchi elects to build any lifesteal in his build path too. So I imagine Snake Pit will pick it up. I don't know if they necessarily have the best ones. Discordia can kind of get that unruly magic bouncing around and try and keep that Divine Ruin procced, but maybe not the best team as Dracomariano gets locked down on the other side of the wall, but can leap back out, has an underhand tactics available.
I don't mind Discordia as far as anti-heal mages go. When you were picking a mid-mage, I mean, I know Snake Pit picked Discordia very early in this game, but when you're looking at a composition that has some sustain, they knew Camazotz was on the other side at the very least, you're looking at mid-mages that apply it well. That's always something. I'm not picking Giannis up against a healing composition because I just don't want to have to build Divine Ruin on that character. He doesn't apply it well. It doesn't synergize with the kit. Discordia, Unruly Magic is definitely the biggest thing, is that it's easy to spread throughout a team fight and keep procced fairly easily. You don't need a whole lot of damage. You just need that one little instance, and it looks like Angry will be rushing it. And it was a Brawlers for WorstTurtle. So I think that Snake Pit's doing what they can so far. I will recommend a Cursed Ankh eventually, but
Dracomariano is able to get that ultimate off in time, though, but they're just waiting on him with the ultimate. I don't really see much chance that he's able to make it out of there. First blood for Snake Pit as they catch Draco just a little bit too far forward, and they kind of have the rotational advantage there. He didn't have nearly as much backup. Terrorem going to see if he can come in and try and find the blue buff on the back of it. WorstTurtle is here to try and see if they can keep this train rolling a little bit, wanting to lock down Creed. They find the dazzling offensive. The hammer's there for the damage too, but Creed lives through it all, and now Markus might even have some turnaround potential getting healed with Checkio on the way.
That was a great dunk by WorstTurtle, and it gets completely negated by Creed's ultimate. You can cast that at any time. Doesn't matter if you're stunned or not. So that's one of the hardest parts about playing against Afro is you think, okay, let's just CC chain her. Oh, well, we can't because you can just instantly use Undying Love and get yourself out of that situation. A good ultimate by Creed. And I like the patience by WorstTurttle. He waits for the stun off Terrorem's ult, but Creed's actually picked up that enhanced shell right off the bat. And this is something that I think that we might end up seeing a lot of in this season is this upgraded shell. It does a whole lot for you. It's good protection, and getting 2 block stacks is huge. We saw Sino go it on set jungle, and I think that kind of tipped a lot of people off. The ability to keep casting your buttons. So for set, it's that you can keep your DPS up, which means that you can heal during that time while still negating a lot of damage. For Aphrodite, it means that you don't have to wait and you don't get your lovebirds off. You can't cast your ultimate in that. That's the only thing you really can't do. I think that this is a really, really smart pickup that we're going to see quite a bit of this year is this upgraded shell, and pretty early too. I think that it's impactful from minute 1.
Well, Spudio got the information that Dracomariano was on the way, but it did not end up mattering. Still had to use the airstrike in order to disengage. That's part of, I think, what makes this Jingwei pick so popular nowadays is that even when she is a bit caught out or caught off guard, she has so many extra tools to get her back out of there. Plus, obviously, when Rage is good, Jingwei is good. Gonna do this Ninja Tabai Bloodforge build. But Chekio in trouble! They block, though. The ultimate coming through doesn't matter as WorstTurttle still cleans that kill up either way. Now Dracomariano takes some damage, but should be safe to make it back out of there.
That was a sick wall by WorstTurttle, and Nuwa usually one of the best in terms of getting out of ganks. She's very, very slippery between the fog, her root, the stun, her ultimate, but ultimate wasn't ready for Chekio at that time, so he's not able to get away.
And WorstTurtle goes up for information, notices the only person nearby really is Warchi, dunks on him, even gets some relics, finds nothing there, and just goes ahead for the disengage. They got exactly what they wanted, a pick, and they got the Gold Fury Snake Pit now on the upswing here, Ryan. And it's not just the 2,700 experience difference, but look at where it's materializing. WorstTurtle has a good lead over Markus in the jungle, which could make life a lot harder for the Papis, but maybe they can rectify that. Spudio having a word, though, certainly knows this gank's happen.
I feel like Papis' composition is really just waiting right now. They need to get ready and get that 5-man grouping, let Aphrodite join these team fights. That's where they're going to be at their strongest. But this is a concerning deficit that they have right now. They're pretty far behind in XP. Just about every single player on Snake Pit has an experience lead over their counterpart on the Papis, save for Spudio, who's a little bit behind Warchi, but sort of to be expected. Usually Uller is really good at forcing you out of lane. Now normally Jingwei is very good at not falling behind when being forced out of lane because of her passive, but seems like that hasn't been enough to keep Spudio even in this one so far. But if you're Snake Pit, this is the type of lead you need to have against sustained compositions. Now it needs to continue to grow. It can't stop here by any means, but this is a good start for them. If I'm on Snake Pit, I'm trying to punish this Nuwa before she hits level 12. WorstTurtle's ultimate's coming up very soon. Maybe we try and look on dunking mid and getting a relic and the ultimate out of Chekio and making it so that that Aegis won't give him near complete immunity against a gank.
Terrorem has been trying to make a play around these Harpies, knowing he'll have time once he's done with the proxy. Not able to get there in time that time, so instead, he'll look to see if he can get the blue buff. Markus really the only one in position to fight over that, but does a good job defending it. Creed, maybe not as much at this point in the game, we're 13 minutes in now, but certainly likes to have that blue buff to keep that mana up, and those cooldowns coming as well. It was absolutely the divine run for Angren, followed that up with the Karen's coin, so I love this build path that he's on for now. They've got plenty of that anti-heal going, and Terrorem does elect to pick up that cursed Ankh as well in the Soli. I know you were asking for it. Truly, Snake Pit have done all they can, I think, to mitigate the eventual onslaught of this healing composition.
I agree. They look prepared. Now it's about execution. I think that's the hard part about healing compositions. Not only do you have to build nearly perfectly against them, but then you have to use those tools effectively.
And it can feel tough sometimes to know where to engage as WorstTurtle takes to the sky, or at least we thought he did. It was Spudio, rather, that shuts down Warchi all the way over on the left-hand side. That's an easy solo kill. I say that, but, I mean, is it really? Do you expect the Jingwei offer to come out ahead over the Uller over in the long lane, and no relics used? It looks like the beads from Spudio must have just caught him off guard.
Yeah, it looks like Warchi may have jumped in, tried to get the axe done. Spudio had a good beads and turned and burned pretty effectively.
Guess Checkio didn't realize this was happening because he just goes straight up and right back down. That is it for the new wall. Markus takes a ton of damage too, so even once he comes down, it must be defensive. They're going to look to try and lock down Dracomariano as well. Does get the leap off, and that's enough to give up on the chase for now, but it has been all Snake Pit throughout this early game here so far, Ryan. I know you were saying earlier you want to see them keep up this pressure. Well, how about trying to force down this tier 1 tower in mid?
This is perfect. You get the pick and the solo kill on left by Spudio. You get Checkio with his headphones off, I suppose, on red buff.
Yeah,
I don't know how he didn't hear that ultimate. It felt like WorstTurttle was right next to him, pretty much, and Checkio just stood still, but ends up being an easy kill for WorstTurttle. Got Checkio's beads at the same time. This is how you start to snowball those leads. Creed has not been a part of any team fight so far, and he's basically coming in at a really big deficit. It's going to be tough for the Papis to try and claw back into this one, especially with Snake Pit utilizing their itemization well up until this point. That Curse Donk should be upgraded on this back by Terrorem. I think you want to get that upgraded sooner rather than later. And at that point, you're doing basically everything you can. Contagion there for Dazer. The only anti-heal item they're missing is Toxic Blade, by my estimation, and maybe Terrorem even buys that at some point. We'll see.
Still, though, they do seem to be coming in about as prepared as you can be, and I think the one sort of saving grace for the Papis in the early to mid game was likely supposed to be Warchi in this Uller, right? The only one who I think you can say is just directly skewed towards the beginning of the game. And while he did have some initial pressure, I think now that he's fallen behind a little bit, that Spudio was able to find that solo kill, even that can be matched relatively well by Spudio now, who has that rage complete, is sitting on the balance blade towards what I imagine will be the executioner right afterwards. I mean, at this point, the Jingwei is ready to fight too.
Absolutely. Jingwei is going to outtrade you most of the time. I mean, those explosive bolts make all the difference in the world, and I imagine that's what happened to Warchi on that solo kill, is that he ate a couple explosive bolts to the face, and Spudio rolled fairly well. Now it's not rolling well, it's that you should expect to get crit at least 2 to 3 times off those explosive bolts, so you have to keep that in your mind, and Warchi's not really, he's not going for the I'm going to win right now sort of build. Aussie is much more a concession towards mid to late game. It's more rounding out your 6-item build. If Warchi was going Crusher in this spot, if he was going Jotun's Wrath, that would tell me that he's looking for kills in lane against Spudio. But the Aussie signals to me that he doesn't want to take these fights anymore. And maybe that's the right approach. Maybe he should have tried to jam this lane because that's the only spot where they have a lead.
Spudio is in some trouble, has been very patient with the relic so far, eventually uses the airstrike, but in comes WorstTurttle to try and provide some backup as the Papis have to use the ultimate from Dracomariano to get him back out of the CC chain. But Angry and Dazer are here too. I don't think Warchi and the boys can stick around any longer. They do decide to disengage, but remember, this is the Primal Fury side of the map. If you make a full back or something like that after a fight, you could just give up the objective, so the Papis want to start it up right away, but the Snake Pit are all here. They're not going to get to try and do this one for free. It's good poke from Discordia.
And this is the first time that Creed has been here for a team fight, so this is the big one for the Papis. They realize that their position in this game is starting to slip away. They can't afford to just keep conceding these objectives, conceding these fights. This is where the game could start to turn around in their favor, or Snake Pit could put it to bed right here.
Yeah, but look at all this vision on the map for Snake Pit, right? All these wards they've got down. They know exactly where the Papis are moving around in the jungle right now, and they're the team, I think, a bit more poised to try and take this fight. But it looks like the Snake Pit have at the very least started to kind of fall back with some of this positioning, and Papis are going to come over and start it. It won't be a secret, though. As I said, Snake Pit have it warded, so they'll just get right back into position to play some defense and force the Papis back. Though I do think that this is the kind of fight that the Papis are a bit more geared up for, right? A long, drawn-out engagement as opposed to a quick one.
No doubt, but Warchi needs to reset. I mean, he's down a full item to Spudio, which means that he probably has a good amount of gold in hand. He should be able to get at least tier 2 of his next item. He's leaving a lot of power on the table at this point. He's going to be way less effective just based on the itemization than Spudio.
I think we saw from the player damage charts that Discordia passive bouncing around between Angry and Terrorem at this point. They're both pretty close to leading on their team, so you'll get to keep an eye which one of them is swinging a little bit extra hard in this next fight. Snake Pit have gotten some decent poke off here, but again, that poke not nearly as valuable up against this Aphrodite composition. I'm starting to wonder if maybe they need to go ahead and get this started a bit sooner, but as you said, they're still favored as long as Warchi's down about an item. Dazer goes in, cannot find the stun, and this is exactly the collapse they want, but a ton of damage to the backline. Chekio's got to get out of there, use the fire shards to disengage, but a WorstTurttle goes right to the sky. It's Terrorem that cleans up the kill, but they're still waiting with the Anvil of Dawn for exactly this dunk, a wall that manages to find 2 people, and Dracomariano comes right back down into pain. It's a 2-for-0 in favor of Snake Pit.
What a fight by Angry. I mean, a 3-man strife over the wall. Unruly magic right there as well. This is where Discordia looks like she's absolutely nuts. If you're hitting strifes like that all game. Angry's also been very, very patient with these ultimates, waiting for Draco to use his, because Fafnir becomes untargetable during the transformation into the dragon. If you just try and apple him then, he'll transform and you'll miss out on a whole lot of damage. But he's been forced to transform early, and Angry has punished him with that apple every single time. Top of the player damage charts, Angry's playing lights out, and he just backed him about a full Soul Reaver, by the way, so it's only getting worse.
And this is right after my own heart, too, because all 3 of these first items are pinned, man. That's exactly how you got to be doing it with these mages nowadays. So whoever lines up in front of him is going to catch the pain. And look at this fire giant melting. They're burning through it too quickly. Markus had no chance to make it in, and Snake Pit now have the fire giant to go along with their tremendous advantage. Aggro, at this point, they're starting to become a bit of a runaway train. The Papis might not ever get a chance to get this healing composition online, especially if Creed is DC'd. And yeah, it looks like there is going to be a pause, so we'll come back out for now, but Fire Giant picked up. They just won that Gold Fury fight. This is all favoring Snake Pit.
Absolutely. These team fights have been phenomenal. They itemized properly for the type of composition that the Papis were going to have. And the Papis maybe waited a little bit too long to get Creed involved. I mean, they want him to get as deep into the build as they'll let him get until he joins these team fights, because Aphrodite is very much dependent on staying alive, getting cooldown, and scaling. That's also very important for her because her damage. But it looks like Snake Pit came prepped for this type of composition. Like I said, I mean, Papis have been beating everybody with Hell solo. They ban the Hell, Snake Pit do. So Papis go, okay, let's see if you just thought that we weren't going to play this style and you're not really prepared for it. We'll pick the Aphrodite. Similar but different. And Snake Pit were clearly prepared for this sort of pick. But it's really been about the mid pressure by Angry. Spudio getting his solo kill was huge. Markus has been a complete non-factor in this game on this Camazotz. Papis just a little bit too slow to rise, basically, to the occasion in this game. And maybe they needed a bigger pressure pick with the Nuwa in the mid lane.
Yes.
I just don't love the composition for the Papis does not really flow very well to me. Like I said, they're really lacking CC. Snake Pit can just kind of run at them, and sure, maybe Dazer gets stunned, maybe Terrorem gets stunned, but that just leaves WorstTurttle, Angry, or Spudio to keep on trucking through the team fight because they know that there's no big CC coming their way. It's all single target.
Well, Snake Pit already got the tier 2 in solo. They're going to work on the tier 2 in duo lane now. And while they're controlling the map, I do want to ask you real quick about the Staff of Mirrodin for Angry. What is the ability he's looking for the reset on? Is it double strife, double erratic behavior, so he can maybe get that extra leap to reposition in the fight? What's he looking for there?
Double erratic behavior is actually really, really good because you get so much cooldown back really quickly, and you get to actually move a pretty big distance in the team fights. Basically, every ability Discordia has is pretty solid twice. None of them are, you know, game-breaking. When Mirrodin was released, no one was like, yes, dude, Discordia. Can't wait for double Discordia abilities. But they're all good enough. And it's a lot of power, CDR, pen. It works.
Dracomariano does make it out of there, get some backup coming from Creed to try and get him topped off, but that is all of the tier 2 towers cleaned off the map. A nice cash injection for Snake Pit. They must be an airline or something, right? And they're ready to come in for the left side Phoenix to see if they can shut it down. Dazer does look for the stun onto Creed, but he gets blown up for it, barely manages to get the dash off, drops the shell so they don't fall to fire shards, but that's huge from the Papis. All of a sudden, the single target and maybe lacking some of that team fight presence gets a little bit better under the Phoenix.
Especially when Dazer is that far forward alone without a whole lot of backup coming his way. Now, he'll be able to heal up courtesy of Fire Giant and his own sustain, but I think that's a good lesson for the Snake Pit support. Don't just run at them alone. You need your team there to really punish the fact that their CC is very single target. Doesn't matter too much if there's only one target for them all to hit anyways.
Well, Terrorem is the one that's going to go in first this time after Dazer ended up a little bit of worst for wear, but this might need to be a two-pronged approach for them, perhaps even a 4-1 split. They've kind of got everyone on the left-hand side, with WorstTurttle lurking in the jungle, waiting to find a good ultimate to Anvil of Dawn his way in. And I like this. He is going to move over and clear the wave to try and make sure they're threatening at multiple spots and maybe kind of break up this cluster from the Papis.
Man, look at the player damage. Markus all the way at the bottom. You're not first picking Camazotz for the worst player damage in the entire game. He's not giving you a whole lot else than player damage. It's not been a good performance from Markus.
It's not been great. A bit surprised how slowly he played that early game too. Terrorem takes quite a bit of damage, but this is their moment. WorstTurtle's in the sky and waiting for a target to try and dunk down on. He's been patient, but finds the two-man stun in the back. Creed is in some trouble, but it's Terrorem that falls first. They do get rid of the Fafnir in Dracomariano, but look at Snakepit's health bars. They're too low. Chekio gets a double kill. Spudio has to airstrike defensively. They do manage to punish Markus on the back of it, but that's a really good defense from the Papis.
You gotta be careful about that right side Phoenix. That's a massive wave coming down the right, but it looks like Creed's gonna get here in time, so no harm, no foul. That right side Phoenix should be able to heal up before it would get re-sieged. But that time, everything goes pretty well for Snakepit. The good ultimate from Terrorem, WorstTurtle's ultimate forces a lot from Creed, just in terms of fear. Then WorstTurtle still finds a really good dunk. But we see some of the weaknesses of Discordia in that team fight in my mind. Her lower range, she doesn't poke that well from super far distance. Angry can't provide that long range damage. Spudio's build is really there to kill people really quickly, not necessarily kill the Phoenixes super quickly. Not a lot of attack speed in the build necessarily. Then no one can really get into on that Phoenix. You'd think that they could. I mean, Creed was behind the Phoenix, as was Draco, kind of right around that area, but Snakepit just doesn't have enough to knock down the actual bird. And this lead is big for Snakepit, and I think they're still heavily favored in this game, but you cannot deny the Papis' scalability in this composition. They scale very, very well with this Aphrodite Nuwa sort of combination. Ullr's going to fall off, but Spudio's about as strong as he's getting at this point. He's not getting that much stronger with this build. Warchi is still getting stronger. Everyone on Papis is still getting stronger. That's the benefit of being down by this much, is that you get a lot stronger pretty quickly, and you've got a lot more headroom in that area than a team that's really ahead of you does.
I think that's going to make this next siege attempt pretty critical here for the Snakepit, this next 4 minutes to try and work with this Fire Giant buff, because the Papis really are at their weakest point, right? I think that's kind of what you were alluding to just now. It's really only going to get harder for them to siege. This Phoenix on right, though, is at half. Dazer, once again, though, gets poked down pretty low, does have a bit of sustain available to him, but it's not anywhere near what the Papis are pumping out. And Snakepit having a hard time engaging these fights. Is Dazer the one you want going in first?
He is, but the problem is if he blinks in and uses that fracture onto Draco, and all of a sudden Creed links Draco and pops the ultimate, and now Dazer's up a creek, that's not really where you want him to be.
Well, they're both going to go in at the same time, and WorstTurtle's going to go up, but Chekio gets a really good ultimate to avoid the stun. That's perfect in that fight to leave WorstTurtle on an island. They do end up losing the right side Phoenix, but I think they could step on the gas pedal here, aggro. The Papis can, and see if maybe they can find a punish on the back of this. Markus gets some decent damage, and he's going to leap in and try and look for more. Good peel coming out from Dazer to try and stop Angry from ending up falling, and he's able to reposition with the rest of the squad, but the Papis going to keep up the chase.
Markus getting too low. Spudio tries to turn and burn, but look out for Warchi. He's flanking.
Wow, good shells. Yeah, those shells are able to keep Markus standing, though, and he'll be able to sustain and get right back in. Warchi waiting on the left-hand side, looking for Spudio, but Spudio makes it back out, too. So the Papis did try and press their advantage, but they might have gotten all they're going to get at this point. Snakepit are back underneath their Tier 2 and defending, and they lost their right side Phoenix. So even though WorstTurtle fell, that right side Phoenix got poked so low by that previous wave that's absolutely still worth for Snakepit.
Very smart siege decision by Snakepit to go for that weakened Phoenix. I really thought that Phoenix would be able to heal up before it was really relevant, but that siege on left took so much time that Fire Giant was already back up for Snakepit as soon as they were ready for it. Right side Phoenix hadn't gotten a chance to heal past about half HP. That, like you said, it's worth it for Snakepit to end up losing just their jungler in exchange for that Phoenix.
Especially if the Papis might get caught overcommitting here trying to grab that objective. I understand these Furies can be impactful, Oni and Primal, in the late game, but you can't afford to lose your support for them, especially with another minute still ticking on this Fire Giant. The only good news is that there's no waves for the Chaos team pushed up to the Phoenix. That is going to eat up some of their time going back to push, but they're going to be four-handed for a little bit trying to defend up against this onslaught.
25 seconds-ish for Draco whenever this Phoenix siege begins. Relic situation is looking good, though, for the Papis, and a couple carries. I mean, WorstTurttle, no relics at all. Angry, no beads. Spudio, no Aegis. That's all pretty relevant here.
Well, Warchi ends up having to use the Aegis. He gets caught by a Strife from range. Markus gets caught as well, and I think this Discordia Strife now starting to show a bit of strength in this fight. If they can find some of those low commitment engagements and get some decent poke, but the response from Papis, we'll just heal that all up with our Aphrodite. I don't know if y'all remember, we got one of those, and Snake Pit ended up being sent on their way. Only another 30 seconds on the FG anyway.
And Draco was coming back up, so good decision by Snake Pit to back it up. Nuwa, like we said, very good self-peel. We saw it on the right side, Phoenix using that ultimate for CC immunity and the ability to take yourself out of combat for a long period of time. And that Fog, man, is so difficult to siege against because you just toss it out and it clears archers and it puts the melees to very, very weak. They're only going to take 1 or 2 Phoenix shots in order to die from that position, so it's pretty easy to just sit under Phoenix and toss out that Fog over and over and over again. And it's going to chunk the people that it hits. It actually is relevant damage in those moments. I think that Nuwa is one of those picks that teams have to get really ready for on these Phoenix sieges, and she can just sit so far back that it's really hard to punish her. There really isn't an easy option for it.
And she's got the Breastplate of Valor as well. I don't know how much longer they're going to feel comfortable trying to go for Chekio in the back, because he found a really great timing on the Fire Shards last time. And they've clearly tried to make him the focus. But Dracomariano, when he gets targeted, he can just use that ultimate, right? The Draconic Corruption, make himself untargetable. Chekio can do the same thing. Markus can take to the sky. Creed can make himself and one other target untargetable as well. But Warchi probably the closest thing to a sitting duck here for the Papis, but it really has not materialized for Snake Pit so far. The early game went really well. The Papis bunkered down and didn't do much. And now they're slowly getting into the time where this sustained composition is just hard to beat.
And this is the near max strength moment for Snake Pit. They've got 6 items on every single one of their players, save for Dazer, but he's level 18. That's pretty strong for a support at this point. You look across the other way, Chekio now 6 items in, Creed has 6 items, Warchi has 6 items, Markus still at 5, as is Draco, but pretty close to the power cap here for Snake Pit.
This next push, pretty critical. I said the last one they did might perhaps be the strongest one, where they were coming in with their biggest advantage. That advantage now starting to dwindle a bit as the Papis getting pretty close to being fully 6 slotted here as well. But this is the weakest Phoenix. A good Strife from Angry might set this fight up, even with Spudio taking a lot of damage. The Phoenix, though, still has not fallen, and the Papis have pushed them out. Fire Shards ensures that everyone remains low, and Markus forces out the airstrike from Spudio, who has to retreat. WorstTurttle does find a good wall that's going to cut off a lot of the chase potential, but yet again, Papis managed to stop them from breaking the base.
Man, I didn't see what put Spudio to such a low health pool, but that's the reason why Papis start to surge forward. Chekio uses his ultimate, Markus uses his. That they only trade Spudio's ult in Aegis and Dazer's shell. Meanwhile, beads down for Chekio and Warchi. No ultimate for Markus Chekio. This is a good re-siege by Snake Pit. Good decision making here.
They even still have Cursed Donk in the back pocket as well if they want to try and drop that one. He does head right to the back line, tries to get that Undying Love off, and already Markus is low. The right side Phoenix sputters out, and the Warchi has fallen now too. Snake Pit might have finally gotten the fight that they were looking for here, aggro, as all of the Papis start falling back to their fountain. But it's not the end of the game yet. They've got 4 members still up. They're still healthy enough to come back out and try and defend, but the mid-Phoenix under siege as well. And without their Uller here to help, Snake Pit apparently seem emboldened. They get good damage on the Chekio, but not quite enough to get the actual Phoenix.
Man, Chekio just eating every single combo by Angry. Aegis isn't there in time for Chekio. He falls to WorstTurttle, and Snake Pit look like they might be able to take it pretty soon.
This could certainly be it. Snake Pit now ready with 5 members that make their full-on push, only up against 3 for the next 20 seconds. Good damage onto Spudio. Even tries to punish WorstTurttle in the backline, but look at the Titan. That's the HP bar that matters the most. It's Snake Pit in 33 minutes, 28 seconds, with a couple of close calls. We're able to come in and clean that game up. And I say some worse calls, some close calls, but I think a topic we never got to approach was, I don't know how the Papis are going to turn that into offense ever, right? Sure, their defense is good, but I don't know if they were ever going to be able to turn that around and start making their own sieges.
It was going to be difficult either way, especially when Angry was playing the way that he was. I mean, he did nearly 40,000 player damage on that Discordia, hard carried the game, basically from minute 1 with that disco. And really, it's really on the Nuwa there to not eat that much poke over and over and over again. Chekio ate a 2-man strife on right Phoenix, another 2-man strife on mid Phoenix, then stepped up and got hit by another Discordia combo in mid Phoenix. You just have such better range as Nuwa. All you have to do is fog underneath these Phoenixes. Just fog over and over again, make sure your passive is stacked, and then wait for a frontliner to come close to you, root minion combo them. You really shouldn't ever be getting hit by Discordia abilities at the range you should be playing Nuwa. I think that really allowed Angry and Snake Pit to make big plays underneath that Phoenix.
I agree, but for me, Markus has to be the headline here, right, on this Camazotz. I mean, he just didn't do enough for them. I know he ends up with 13,000 damage, but this was their first overall pick. I don't think there's enough value for him, and I think Camazotz is relevant enough in the early game to where he should have been able to keep up with WorstTurttle a bit. It's hard with the Thor. He moves around the map a lot better than he's going to, but still, I think that they should have gotten more from him and from Warchi and the Uller. They're supposed to be that care package that gets that team to the really strong late game around Creed.
Completely agree. I mean, those are the two of the top 3 picks for Papis there, right? It's Camazotz and Uller alongside the Fafnir there for Draco. You have to be able to convert on that a little bit more. Maybe Creed is not a fan of the Camazotz solo. I know we've seen Markus play that Camazotz a decent amount. Maybe it's just better to put it in solo lane if Markus is going to want to play it slower in the early game. Put him on something like Hun Bats that scales well into the late game and has a game-changing ultimate where you don't want to be fighting in that early game area. If you got Camazotz, it should be brawling basically all the time.
I agree, man. It feels like there's no part of the game when Camazotz doesn't come out on top of a lot of his fights. But that's only game number 1. It's Snake Pit that comes out there, but the Papis have plenty of time to bounce back. It'll be a quick break. We'll be right back with game number 2. And welcome back to the Smite Challenger Circuit. It's still Finch and Aggro, and we're still in the middle of watching the set between the Snake Pit and the Papis. And in game 1, we saw Snake Pit, I don't know if it's fair to say that a super aggressive early game, but it was a bit more early game skewed than what the Papis had, which was waiting towards the late game, and they never really got time to materialize. Snake Pit grabbed that first game. Aggro, I'm still thinking that maybe they waited a bit too long, but maybe they can clean that up here at the picks and bans for game number 2.
I mean, clearly the Papis had the Phoenix defenses down pretty well. It took a lot of opportunities for Snake Pit to eventually break the base and win the game, but maybe we get the ball rolling a little bit earlier for the Papis for sure. Put Creed on something that's either a mage that's going to get a little bit more help out of the jungle. I mean, I know Terrorem got a couple blue buffs that game stolen for his side. Maybe you put Creed on a warrior this time around. I think that you put something for Chekio in the mid lane a little bit more aggressive, and the Papis will be just fine.
I think so too. Like you said, coming into this set, the Papis have looked like one of the stronger teams. They looked great throughout those group stages and the qualifiers, and even winning their very first set as well. It's just a question of can they keep that momentum going as they're going to start to face tougher and tougher opponents who've gotten more comfortable playing up against each other. We won't have to wait that much longer to find out, though. The picks and bans are now ready for game number 2. Now, there was a while where we were saying bans and picks. I guess that fell off. It is bans first, but I don't know, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, we were all saying bans and picks, all of us as a collective group.
It swept across the country. It was a big movement.
Huge. It was a fad that really, just like bell-bottom jeans maybe should
fetch,
stay in the past. Yeah, we don't need that back. Anyway, it's picks and bans, man. That's the way it is.
That's the way it's always been. The Odin and the Hopwa banned out this time. The Yamoja banned out as well. I don't think the bans were anything particularly too noteworthy in the last game. They're fairly standard. Snake Pit are going to continue to ban away this hell, though. They know that's something the Papis are comfortable playing, and they just got all the evidence they needed that they're not that worried about the Aphrodite. They beat when Creed was on that last game. So just take that hell off the table, and they're clearly feeling comfortable.
I agree. And why would you be worried about Camazotz here if you're Snake Pit? I wouldn't be. I'd be totally fine with the Papis taking Camazotz here in this first pick position, or we get it if they decide to go a different route. Maybe they try and take Thor away from WorstTurttle, and then we get Camazotz for that. Looks like Papis want to take Jingwei away and give it over to Warchi. Sweet. Now we've got Camazotz on the table for us over here on Snake Pit. I think that the Discordia pick is a smart one. If Angry is going to play that well, give him the pick, man. Doesn't really matter how early you pick that. Now, not going Camazotz here is surprising. Now, WorstTurttle, remember, did have a great early game, a lot of good dunks, but very, very low on the player damage towards the late game. A lot of that is because of how good the Papis comp was at defending themselves. I don't think you can put too much blame at his feet. But maybe Snake Pit try and pick Camazotz solo here if Papis don't snag it themselves.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be the idea. They're now hovering this Hades, which to me is a bit odd. I mean, we just got through watching the new WA, right? And so you wouldn't want to come back there. So instead, I like this so much better. They're just going to pick a top-tier mage. Where's Kuku Khan, by the way? He's not been picked or banned here, right? Is he just not... Yeah. Did I miss something? Is he not playable, perhaps? Something like that? But, yeah, I mean, he's still plenty good. So they'll take the Merlin here for the Papis.
Yeah, I don't know where the Cuckoo is, man. I feel like that's definitely missing. Did you peep the win rate for Merlin, by the way? A huge pick rate, a huge ban rate, 14% win rate for this character. Right? Very, very low. And it was like that during qualifiers, too. A very low win rate despite his high pick and ban rate. I know that everyone's saying that he's still really nuts. The stats don't really necessarily back that up. Now, maybe it's the teams that are not favored to win picking him the majority of the time, but maybe Merlin just isn't providing what teams really think he is.
Yeah, maybe it's just because Merlin's like the third or second thing that you usually end up taking, and that first thing is just so good, like Camazotz or Demoja or Odin or whoever slips through. Maybe it's just a weird way of where he ends up that ends up working against him. It's hard to say. As the Hachiman comes through for Snake Pit, they ended up doing a pretty good job with that Jingwei last game, even up against the Uller. Hachiman also plenty strong in his own right. Nothing wrong with that. They'll pair the Terra alongside that. Meanwhile, the Papis do go more aggressive this time. They got the Bakasura and the Bologna, so they're going to have someone who's ready to fight over in solo and in jump.
Creed has definitely been a Bologna player for a lot of his career, if my memory serves me properly. The Bakasura is one that we don't see a lot of, but the Cripple's great at shutting down Terra. You don't care about Discordia hiding in that cloud because your cone autos are going to cover basically the entire thing. You can cripple the Thor out, whatever he's trying to hammer away. I think the Baka can work, but this is the exact opposite of the last composition from Papis. This is a comp that needs to win early and cannot afford to wait that long like they did last time around.
And even if they do, maybe if they come into the late game a bit, even, they've got this Jingwei building plenty of crit. They got this Kepri as well to try and keep them sustained this fight. We didn't end up seeing any executes or anything like that. I thought maybe there's a chance we might see an Achilles, something like that, come over into the solo lane. But it's going to be Terrorem on this King Arthur, who I still think is plenty strong. I know Glad Shield got some nerfs, so maybe that's not quite as potent as it once was. But King Arthur can absolutely still be a bully.
No doubt. I mean, the Glad Shield nerf hurt King Arthur worse than any other character by far, but it still does Arthur stuff every once in a while. You still have these insane moments of 3v1s and 4v1s where you're coming out on top for sure. So it looks like Dazer's going to try and get here in time for this invade, Blink included, and he's going to get it. Markus, no hog, thinking, oh, if I see him coming, I'm Bakasura, I'll just level my 2 and end up being the secure myself. But leveled the 1 because he didn't see Dazer at all. Good pathing by Dazer.
That's frustrating, right? Against as a Bakasura, I mean, in particular, to have your buff invaded. I mean, Bakasura is the kind of god where I might not even have tried it, right? Because it's so unlikely that you get the invade up against them. I think that's just how big of a deal it is that Dazer is able to grab that. And that should throw Markus's timing off significantly. A lot slower. Missed out on some of that farm as well since it was secured by Dazer. That's a pretty good start for this Terra support, who I don't know if you always think of as a particularly good invader, but was able to make it work there.
And it ends up hurting Creed. Creed needs to get back to the blue buff, but can't before Markus can end up getting it. Yeah, it needs to get back into the game, it looks like, unfortunately for him. But
there it is.
Either way, Markus cannot afford to hold that buff for Creed no matter what in that moment. So that means that that's going to hurt him. He's not going to hit level 2 quite as quickly, whereas King Arthur is going to be level 2, and that's a huge difference to have King Arthur have a level lead over you, no matter what solo laner you're playing, let alone someone like Bologna, who usually wants to try and out-trade you a lot of the time.
Yeah.
King Arthur with a level lead, you're not out-trading that guy. He's getting 2 abilities every level instead of the usual 1.
It's going to be difficult to try and win that fight over there. It's going to be tough for this Bakasura, who I talked about Bakasura being someone who does like to fight a bit more. I mean, so does Camazot's last game, so certainly not more than that, but maybe can fight more than what we saw from Markus last game. But sometimes he does kind of want to wait a little bit to cook in the oven, right, and then come out at maybe like level 7 or 8, and especially if you push him behind, that might happen here again. Bakasura is someone who's going to look a little bit more for catching someone alone and maybe getting a swift gank than necessarily just straight up brawling like you might see from the Camazot's.
Markus really just wants to farm until he has his ultimate, take a fight every once in a while with his ultimate, and then back up until that ult's ready to go. That's a huge difference maker, is that regurgitate. He's really good at invading you, and if you want to come to him, maybe he'll take the fight, but the majority of the time it's farm, farm, farm. Okay, I have ult, let's go kill somebody. Farm, farm, farm again, and just rinse, repeat until hopefully the enemy mid laner or solo laner or ADC is just not a factor in the game anymore.
Warchi gets the dash off in time, so Dazer really there more for presence than anything else, not going to be able to successfully find any ganks on that side of the map. Last time, though, Spudio with the Jingwei was able to get the best of Warchi on the Uller when you would have thought that the Uller had a good chance to get some bully potential early on. Now you're giving Spudio someone who I think is much better at boxing at multiple stages throughout the game, and then still does have a pretty potent late game with that Heavenly Banner as that steroid form too. They're even going to look for the purple buff invade, and Markus doesn't get there in time. He's just kind of sitting over here and left, a bit surprised he'll finally back.
Especially with speed buff coming up, that you kind of want to be on that right away. Now you can expect that they have that timer at the very least, as Warchi does get blocked by that wall, costs him the beads. Really great play again by Dazer.
Having a good early game so far here, isn't he? Using these Terra walls quite well. And Terra is one of those gods, I think, that execution-wise has a lot of room for some of the best to really play her a little bit better than some of those others. I think guys like Aurora and PBM, when they end up on this pick, Aurora not often, but when he does, I think they really show you some of the extra flexibility that this god can have. And if you know some of those spots where you can catch someone out just like that, it adds a lot of additional value.
Such a high skill ceiling on this god. I mean, anytime you've got a lot of deployables, that's a huge deal to really try and use those to change terrain and put yourself in a good spot. But the flexibility of the kit is huge, as Draco's in a lot of trouble.
Uses the abduct to get away, but the wall stun is there. Dazer plays yet another fight near flawlessly, and that sets up for a kill on the left-hand side. Warchi might have to back as well. He already doesn't have beads, and WorstTurttle gonna come in to try and complete this gank out. Warchi gets caught out. That's easy for the Thor to clean up, but they have to drop the tower aggro a bit early. Not quite that close, though. WorstTurttle makes it out of there, and Snake Pit get off to another hot start.
Really good job by Dazer again to hold that tower aggro, make sure that WorstTurtle's not going to take too much damage, and then let him walk out in that moment. That is huge to get that double kill onto the duo lane. You know Warchi's beads are already down. Dazer might show up again and make another play on that side of the map sooner rather than later, because this left side of the map is going so well for them. Now you can start looking for purple buff invades consistently. Red buff invades are on the table. Angry has a slight level lead in the mid lane, so you can really play around that mid to left side of the map very, very easily and know that your King Arthur is going to be just fine over there on Solo Island.
As he said, because that start, that King Arthur off to a bit of a lead over there in Solo. Even if he wasn't, King Arthur should be fine up against the Bologna in most cases anyway. And then you started talking a little bit about Angry, who had a great game on the Discordia last time and is once again off to a good start, leading everybody in terms of experience per minute. Leading right there next to him is Terrorem, so maybe not a ton out in front, but certainly doing pretty well for this mid-roll. Checkyo does manage to use the flicker to get away, plays that one quite patiently, and avoids Dazer quite well.
I mean, you've got a level lead for a lot of, or at least an experience lead for a lot of different members of Snake Pit. You can check out that XP per minute thing on the left side of your screen. That's a lot of red numbers up top, number one. Then you've got to try and keep in mind, okay, I'm looking at King Arthur, where's Bologna? Because I'm looking for the lane matchups. There's nobody ahead of their counterpart for the Papis. Everyone is behind in XP per minute. So these level leads are going to start to grow. You've got a full level right now, it looks like, for both Angry and Terrorem, and WorstTurttle even is doing better. And there's a successful red buff invade that's going to only make the problem worse now if you're the Papis. They're down nearly 2K just 5 minutes in. That's a huge deficit for this point in the game.
It absolutely is, man. Snake Pit have been able to pressure the map out even better, I would say, here in Game 2 than they did in Game 1. Game 1, they waited a lot to play around WorstTurttle and his aggressiveness. This time, though, I think Dazer has largely been the catalyst as he gets caught by the abduct, but WorstTurtle will be here to back him up. A dunk on a Dracomariano. He does get the self-res off, but Angry got some good practice with that last game with the Fafnir, does virtually the same thing, catching him the second he comes out of that revive and gets the kill.
And Chekio loses the purification beads all at the same time. This is not the Papis that we've really seen so far in Season 7, not just in the SCC games, but the qualifiers, they were great. They looked like they were the ones putting pressure on the enemy team. I mean, wasn't it just last week that they dismantled Freshly Forged in the second set of the day? I mean, this is a team that's looked really good for the most part, not really the case today.
Well, I think that just twice in a row now, they've kind of put themselves into a spot where they're playing a bit from a deficit. Now, this one is a different situation. Dazer makes, what, a 2-in-10, 1-in-10 play to strip away the speed buff from a Bakasura in the early game. I don't know how often that ends up happening, and he's been behind ever since, literally a non-factor in this game so far. And on the other side, Snake Pit have been playing around WorstTurtle and Dazer very well in this early game. They get that Discordia passive bouncing around for them as well, too, if it hasn't been on Terrorem all game. I don't know if I 100% write this off for the Papis, but there's also been some extra stuff kind of hurting them here this time.
Well, they had a smaller deficit in Game 1 with a better late game, by my estimation. Now,
that's true.
You've got a bigger deficit with a worse late game. I mean, look, mid lane, Merlin is really, really strong, but Nuwa was. Warchi is on a much better late game selection this time around, but is also much further behind than he was at this point in game number 1 of this set. Another red buff that the Papis are late to defending. Markus isn't there. You really shouldn't be getting buffs invaded very often when you've got a Bakasura on your team.
Warchi, under pressure yet again, is patient with the airstrike, so Spudio just gets up onto the horse for another easy solo kill on the left-hand side, Ryan. And you're right, man, it's starting to look pretty bad for the Papis in this early game. It's a near 3K deficit, a little bit less than that in terms of gold, but they're in a really comfortable spot. And look at this build path from Angry. Last time we thought he made the adjustment off that restored artifact over to the Divine Ruin, but it looks like he likes to just kind of chill here at this tier 2 and then finish off his flat pin item, whether it be Divine Ruin or Deso or something like that, and then come right on back and finish off the Karen's coin. So I think that's how we're going to see Angry building in a lot of cases.
Wonder if it's going to be Divine. I mean, European mid laners love building Divine Ruin, even in games where it doesn't feel as necessary. I think
it's good.
It's good, but I would rather just have Deso in that spot. Now, if he's going to end up going for that Mirrodin, that means he can't go Chronos Pendant with that restored artifact, but he didn't anyways last game. He went Charon's coin. I think that I would like to get Deso in this spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Divine.
This is a risky gank. Creed still has that ultimate available. The hammer, though, on the mark for WorstTurtle to TP back in and get the kill either way. That does leave Dazer a bit isolated in mid, but he escapes the pressure quite nicely. What about Spudio, though? Markus right there trying to hunt him down, level 8, and does catch up with those cone autos, but Spudio now back underneath the tier 1 and should be relatively safe as the abduct lands onto Angry. Papis trying to capitalize on WorstTurtle being over and right, but they haven't found anything. In fact, Chekio gets his feeds forced out. Dazer wants to get aggressive. They forced the defensive ultimate, and now WorstTurtle has rotated back in, but Markus is here. There's a lot of boys in blue to try and shut him down. They finally get their first kill.
Spudio is going to get one easily. Chekio was 1 HP, but Angry does fall to Warchi. Spudio is going to find himself a second, though. That Kepri left without anywhere to go. So 2 for 2, but 2 shutdown kills for the Papis. I think I'm pretty happy with how that went if you're the Papis. A little bit of an overextension there by WorstTurtle baits Angry into a bad spot.
It does, and that's a fight from Snake Pit that I think could have been a bit cleaner and necessarily didn't have to lose all that after a good gank over in the solo lane against a target that still had a pretty good ultimate available there for them. But it's certainly not, you know, a huge problem for Snake Pit. I mean, they're still in control. They're still the ones pushing the pace, and Spudio still has this tremendous lead on the left-hand side of the map. Warchi truly cannot fight to this Hachiman any longer now. The Ninja Tabi and the Bloodforge both ready to go. He's 5-0-1, and just a good boxer anyway.
Yeah, Spudio is doing everything right now. 5-0 for him. He has really put the Papis behind the 8 ball. only about a level lead, but he should have a very big gold lead at this point. Yeah, he's got 2K gold almost in hand, ready to go for as soon as he backs.
WorstTurttle does find a nice stun, but Chekio is able to get out of there even without the Purification Beads, as Creed still seems to be struggling to stay connected here. We'll see if the Papis try and do some work to get him back to the game. Looks like that's going to come right now as they do make their pause, and we'll see if Creed can get back in there to keep this fight going. But both of these games, haven't they felt a bit similar? The only real difference is that I just don't think the Papis are waiting for as good of a late game as they were the first time, exactly to your point. But they're yet again under a lot of pressure from Snake Pit early.
I mean, Spudio wasn't 5-0 last game, and soloing Warchi basically every time he walks back in the lane. It's a pretty big difference in that long lane. Terrorem has a 3-level lead on Creed this time around. I don't know how that happened. I mean, one gank over there by WorstTurttle, but that felt like it was already going in King Arthur's favor. Maybe that was right as right side buffs were coming up, and Creed lost a blue at that exact same time and didn't get a wave. But he's now down in a ton. 2-level lead for Angry. I mean, there's a 5K lead at 11 minutes. Usually we start thinking, okay, these games are in a bad spot 25 minutes in when you see these 10K gold leads or so. This is a 98% win chance for Snake Pit. If we've got the predictor thing that, you know, ESPN has or whatever for games when you're looking on your phone, Snake Pit are at 98% at this point. So they have to make mistakes to let Papis back in this game.
Yeah, this Gold Fury should be secured. Pyromancer going to be traded back out. But there are some people coming over to try and contest this. WorstTurttle should be nearby, so this is not going to be free for the Papis. I don't know if they recognize. Hammer comes in. Papis do secure the objective, but WorstTurtle takes to the sky. Dracomariano is quite low and has already used the ultimate, so this should be a big dunk as he comes crashing in to spread the lightning around and have a little bit of fun. Chekio ends up falling as WorstTurtle gets the double. Markus low too as Dazer cleans up that third kill. They got one return onto Spudio, and that's a big kill. But everybody else is in trouble. Creed stuck without that ultimate to reposition, but Terrorem still has his, brings us Bologna right back down to earth for a delayed triple for WorstTurtle as Snake Pit run over the Papis.
Yeah, you don't want to be grouping up on the one guy that is forced to stand still in that moment. You're basically asking to get double or triple dunked. WorstTurtle has been accurate with those all day long today, even without a whole lot of player damage in game number one. A great fight for Snake Pit. Now, silver lining for Papis is twofold. Number one, they actually got the objective, even though it was close. And number two, you got the shutdown kill on the Spudio, but I didn't see exactly who that kill went to. Looks like it might have been Warchi. I don't think Warchi had a kill before all this began, so that's huge to catch him up. He gets a couple waves over there. Now he's only about a level down. So it could be worse for the Papis. It could be raiding, but that's about it.
Yeah, it is not a full-on thunderstorm yet, but the clouds are rumbling in, so to speak, for Snake Pit, and they're in a good spot. And I think what's really scary is that this has been largely led, I would say, by Dazer, WorstTurtle, and Spudio. They haven't even really had to call Angry's number just yet. And remember the monster performance he had back in game one, and he is still ahead of Chekio and certainly set up to look really good if they end up needing him, which they certainly will throughout the rest of this game. Mariano has been locked off perfectly by this wall, but they don't want to heavily commit, not with Chekio nearby, though Terrorem's starting to push up towards the enemy jungle shrine to see what pressure he can find.
Yeah, this is kind of old school where you pick the King Arthur and you just pick Discordia to let him get that passive and you let him do whatever he wants on that side of the map, and that's really come to fruition here for Snake Pit. Interesting, by the way, to see the Breastplate of Valor for Terrorem. That's not an item we see most King Arthurs go for. It's usually something like a Mystical Mail or a Void Shield can be a little bit more aggressive in that slot, but maybe because of that extra power that he's getting from the Disco passive, he feels like he can go pure defense and try and, make plays that way. Doesn't need to build it.
WorstTurtle had to ult out. He'd already used the hammer. Does come back down, and they force Dracomariano to use his ultimate on himself. I don't think we've seen him use it on any other targets than himself all game long. Dazer tries to keep up the chase, but Markus goes right to the backline. He knows where Spudio is, but he just does not have the damage. Spudio makes it back out. Draco falls to Terrorem, who completes the tier 1 tower dive, and another good wall from WorstTurtle cuts off Markus, and now Terrorem is here to complete the flank stuns of Warchi and forces the airstrike out from him defensively. Snake Pit at this point just taking whatever fight they want.
Man, they're just running over the Papis right now. Terrorem can dive a tier 2 without any sort of worry at all. because that extra defense that he has, the Breastplate of Valor, Angry's right in the right position as per usual. He had another good ult that team fight, and Markus has just been completely ineffective once again, this time on the Bakasura, in comparison to that Camazotz. Papis have an uphill battle from here. They've really got to hope that Snake Pit continues to try and play aggressive, but makes some bad choices. Overextends, dives Phoenixes, doesn't play with objectives in mind. All that's going to be pretty important for Papis to try and come back here.
It is, and I've seen Markus play now for a couple of years. He's definitely can play better than what we've seen from him today. This just has not been his day, so to speak. So he's still got some time to try and get this Bakasura online and maybe turn this one around. We know he's capable of it, but it's just going to be an uphill battle. He actually had what I would argue is a decent initiation on the Spudio. He got right to the back of the fight when they overcommitted onto Dracomariano, and normally that's where Bakasura cleans up. But I think he's too far behind, man. The damage wasn't there. He got about 3 hits off, and Spudio was still comfortable.
Executioner for him. I mean, it's not exactly what you need a lot of times because you have true damage already. Just not his best day. The same can be said for Warchi, who just gets absolutely obliterated by Angry.
Yeah, I don't want it to be lost in this game what a monster performance Dazer is having as well. This has been a really nice example to look back on if you want to see how Terra is supposed to be played. Markus is very fast. He might be able to run away. Nope. Angry catches him quite nicely with the strife. So no, he won't be able to run away. They get 2 kills in that engagement, starting off with Dazer and a really nice strife from Angry as well to get that fight started. They'll now take the tier 1 tower. And with this grouping in mid, they might be able to get a bit more, but the Papis have a decent grouping of their own to try and defend this, so it won't be an easy tier 2 tower dive.
Man, you've got a 1-9 duo lane right now for the Papis. You compare that to the 6-1 by Dazer and Spudio combined. Now an Oni Fury that's going to go Snake Pit's way. Uncontested at this point. No way that Papis try and step up and try and make something happen around this Fury. Snake Pit get to continue to go wherever they please, including killing Chekio.
That's a good wall, but Chekio managed to get the flicker off. I don't know if maybe the sun just didn't quite land there on the wall, but he was able to reposition, or if it was too short. Draco, though, in some trouble. He is able to loop back around, though, so he'll disengage, but I like where Snake Pit's heads are at. At the very least, they could do Pyromancer here, maybe even FG, though they are a bit low on health, so I think Pyromancer the safer call. They'll do that. No way that it gets contested by the Papis. They can back and spend some of this gold as well.
No doubt. I mean, there's no reason to try and go for Fire Giant at this point. That's how you throw games, is making these, we can just do whatever we want sort of plays, and we don't have to worry too much about it. The bigger plays, like going for Phoenix Sieges, the Fire Giants, those are where you can throw leads pretty quickly. Back, you would have a lot of gold in hand at the time, spend a lot of that. In fact, a lot of people still haven't reset to spend that gold. Then they can go for Fire Giant pretty easily, I might add. But until then, let's just keep doing our thing.
This is bold from Spudio, and it ends up costing him the ultimate. He knew Markus and Warchi were both there. He just fought around the Alpha Harp. He still tries to grab purple and ends up having to give up his ultimate. That's actually a pretty valuable tool for them. But it ends up starting to work now as they get a good amount of damage onto Warchi and left. And WorstTurttle does want to get aggressive. He knows that Warchi is a bit isolated, doesn't find the ultimate, doesn't find the spin either. And I couldn't tell if he even got the wall. So not the best engagement for WorstTurttle. But they'll get Dracomariano in the back easily enough. And yeah, WorstTurttle gets back in there, and that's his kill.
Yeah, that's his. He earned that one. Yeah. He zoned away Warchi. That's big play.
Really zoned, yeah.
He earned it, you know. It's about keeping everyone else at bay and then making sure that he's going to be there for the actual follow-up. That's big plays by him.
Yeah, if they had needed him to hit that stuff, he would have, but that was more about convincing Warchi not to fight there. Obviously, having been a fun. WorstTurtle's had a magnificent game so far as the Fire Giant appears to be on the menu, and they've got a substantial lead at this point. So they don't even have to heavily commit to it. This could be just try and force Papis to defend, but it looks like only Creed is going to be nearby to look for a light steal. Everyone else is zoned out. They've got Warchi looking for the tier 2 tower on the left. In comes Creed with that Eagles rally to try and strip it away, but they halt DPS, blow him up, and secure the Fire Giant very cleanly. Though this is about as good a trade, I think, as the Papis could have asked for, aggro.
Perfect play by Snake Pit. Stop DPS as soon as Creed goes in. Kill him. Finish fire. Terrorem zoning out Chekio so he can't be anywhere close. That's exactly how you get it done. You lose the tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, but that's no problem at all. you can just back, and frankly, you want to be pushing that side anyway, so the fact that the wave is really pushed up isn't too much of a problem. I love what Snake Pit are doing right here, pushing up every single wave. I think too often we see teams say, all right, we're going to push duo and mid, or mid and right, and we kind of leave that third lane pushed by our towers. That leaves you with, okay, we won the team fight, but not enough to end the game. We can go over and get another Phoenix, but we don't have a wave. So then we lose that option to try and keep going on these engagements. Good teams are going to keep waves pushed in their favor where they want them at all times. So that's a smart call by Snake Pit. Keep all the waves pushed, and that's going to give you more options down the line.
I like these builds, though. The Spectral Armor there for Terrorem to limit some of the effectiveness of Warchi on this Jing Wei. And Dazer's used his early lead to leverage into a rather cheap build with the Relic Dagger and Lotus Crown and still be effectively tanky. Czechia, though, could be in trouble. WorstTurttle just ulted and is looking for a target, but he comes underneath the Tier 2 tower instead, does not find Czechia at all. And these last two ults from WorstTurttle have not been spectacular. He's got to make sure he reins that in a bit as they threaten this left side Phoenix.
He was hoping to catch the flicker from Czechio. He's trying to read exactly where the Merlin was going to flicker. He gets out that way anyways. It's not too big of a deal. Would have been nuts if he hit it, so you got to give him some sort of credit there, you know?
Yeah, and hard to complain when they end up getting the left side Phoenix and the Tier 2 tower in mid, right? They are going to lose the Tier 2 tower because Markus has correctly identified he's more useful split pushing than in the fights, but Dracomariano gets blown up, so the apple passes right on through, gets to Czechia and forces out his Aegis Creed, goes with the contractually obligated up-down, ends up paying for it as Spudio is now racking up a triple kill, and Markus has to disengage. This game is over in an instant as Snake Pit are all the way onto the Titan room. They still have Warchi and Markus up, but the Titan's starting to buckle now, aggro. I don't know if they can defend. They're going to turn around, try and blow up the Bakasura, who does leap away, but the Titan is incredibly low. Snake Pit bowl over the Papis for a swift 2-0.
Wow, that is not what I expected coming into today, Finch. I mean, I started the show talking about how good the Papis have been, how good they looked last week, and this is Snake Pit's opportunity to prove how good they are. They proved they're pretty darn good. They just spanked the Papis in 2 back-to-back games, neither one particularly close. Snake Pit team is for real, man. And this, the first thing off the top of my head now, after watching this set, is how far behind are Freshly Forged? If Papis played like that against them last week, and then Snake Pit does this to the Papis, I mean, that's a concerning measuring stick to add up if you're Freshly Forged at this point.
And as much as that might be scary for Freshly Forged, I think it's good news for Snake Pit because I think you can make an argument that at different points throughout this set, all 5 members of their team played at carry level, right? I mean, Dazer early game single-handedly, I think, got them this lead for them in game number 2. Terrorem had some great moments too. Angry might have carried the first game by himself. WorstTurttle and Spudio both were popping off at different moments in game number 2. So if you're Snake Pit, I think you could say that everyone on your team was feeling it at a certain point in that game, and that's got to be a big confidence booster for them going forward. That is going to do it for this first set here, though, Aggro, but we got 2 more in Europe. So give us a quick couple of minutes. We're going to get that next set ready for you and then be right back for more SCC.